Alright guys, so this is the brand new Rainment 6 Dashing Strike meta that I've been developing for about the past week or two and kind of tuning the build. And what it involves is the Rainment 6 and basically a hybrid between last season's speedrun build and progression builds, which were posted by Quinn69, as well as a little improvisation on my part. And ideally what you're going to see is really effective Torment 8 to Torment 10 riffs. Be warned, 4-player Torment 10, this build becomes a little diminished in its effectiveness. Torment 10's generally kind of just like that. But in T8, solo or in 4-player, this build just really shines and has a much faster speed than Angry Chicken Witch Doctor, Uliana's Monk, and Whirlwind Barb. Like, you will blow them all out of the water in speed. Now just keep in mind that this build is a little harder to play if you're unfamiliar with the Dashing Strike damage meta, which a lot of people are. A lot of people may or may not have missed out on it last season or haven't necessarily done it in a while. So, there's a little bit of that to catch back up on. But once you really perfect it, you'll just see landslide difference in your times for farming keys. And it is also, it's not just on skill and setting up your damage, but it's also your ability to kind of know your tiles and know where you need to go on the map, and as well as your ability to find elites. Finding elites is the key part of this build. You absolutely need to be able to find elites every 15 seconds if possible to maintain your maximum uptime. Now the build itself is tuned to deflate how horrendous it can be between elite packs if your Ingeom proc falls off, so you shouldn't really suffer too much on speed from not finding the elites when you need to. But with Nemesis Bracers and generally just the speed that you have, you're never going to really have any problems. So basically, like your priorities, put up Sweeping Wind, use your Fist of Thunder to proc your Rainment 6, and then you just maintain those two things, and you dash for days. And you will just see some insane damage and excellent clear times, and hopefully this will get you a lot of keys. So we're going to move into the next portion of this guide. I'm going to let this part finish up, and we'll go over the gear, skills, gems, and cube setup for this build, as well as the possible variants. And there is some room for improvisation, so, hopefully you like it, and hopefully you can find your own way to make it the way you want. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, how's it going? Cthulhu here. So, this moves to the actual gear, gems, cube, and kind of setup we use for this new speedrunning meta. Okay, so I guess the first thing we'll start with is the cube, which we're using Ingeom, Cindercoat, and Avarice Band. Now, I like Avarice Band just because it shaves a lot of time off, just not having to grab orbs. And also helps hit all the gold to get max value on your gold wrap. But other things you could take could be Convention or even Obsidian Ring if you want just like ridiculous uptime on Epiphany and your dash, but it's really up to you. The Cindercoat also could be something else, but I mean this basically just ensures consistency if you don't manage to hit an elite pack to refresh your Ingeom proc. And I mean, obviously the Ingeom is just GG, but if you wanted to, the only other option there would be the Furnace, or instead of wearing Flying D, you could equip a Furnace and use Ingeom in the cube. That may actually be better for T10, but I feel like this was the most consistent because I was never running out of Spirit, and I was never hitting Dashing Strike. Dashing Strike never hit cooldown. And I feel like that's really the one thing you don't want, because as soon as that goes on cooldown, you have to wait that whole time, and you're just losing damage in time, effectively. So alright, we'll go over the gear now. So I'm using Mask of the Searing Sky. This could be better. I mean, these are the right stats. The only thing you'd want is secondary res. The body, this is good, except for it's at a 15% life. You want Dashing Strike damage. I use this for my static charge, so I'm not going to roll that into that, just to roll it back. Ideally you want secondary res here and then percent life instead of all res, but it's fine. Armor here, or secondary resist, or all res. These are basically what you want. I don't think they really get much better than this roll. And the movement speed just means extra dex. You could take armor though or something. This is obviously the life per hit you'd want into 20% fire damage. Or holy. I mean, like, you could actually make holy work with this build better than fire, because it'll also scale your sweeping wind and your storm. But I mean, it's fine. These are just the best that I have right now. But I mean, ideally you want fire, dex, vit, crit, secondary resist. So these are pretty good. Shoulders. You can go with CDR or you can go with life. It's really up to you. Doesn't really matter. And then this is pretty much the rolls you want. Dex, Vit, CHD, CHC, secondary resist. It's all really good. As far as my flying D goes, now like I said, you can use Furnace here if you want. I mean, you're going to have better elite damage, which I guess is better, but I like being able to just have 100% uptime on Spirit and never run out if I don't have an Engium proc, because it's just too important to making the build work. And I mean, if ideally the dream is insane damage roll, 10% damage, attack speed, and dex. That's like the dream, but this is just fine too. This is the best one I found this season. As far as your rings go, you'd want damage rain, crit hit damage, crit hit chance is for the dream with secondary resist, but this is also fine with just dex. So the other one's just pretty much the same. And the Hellfire, this one's good. Like, you want Alacrity and Seize the Initiative just to keep your spirit up when you have to stop. Just so you always have, like, max spirit or close to it, so you can always just keep your dash going. But you could trade it out for defensive passives, but I personally don't see a point. I just go full retard. I don't have any problems. The only thing I do keep is Harmony, but even that could be, like, Fleet-Footed or NDE if you want insurance, or Determination for more damage. It's really up to you. I don't feel like Determination would last long enough to really matter, though. I think Fleet-Footed would be the more consistent choice. And the other reason why Holy might be good is because of the actual 20% movement speed that you gain from it as well. I think that would be really good. But I like this just because it's more consistent. That pretty much goes for gear. And then you got Boon of the Hoarder, and that obviously synergizes with your gold wrap, which makes you basically invincible, which is the one thing this build lacks is survivability. So you can pretty much just go like full retard because of the synergy between these two. Put Bane of the Trapped, obviously, because it's so good, and as obviously the secondary procs the primary. And then Gem of the Powerful, simply because you're going to be elite mashing the whole time just to keep your NGM procs up. So it gives you basically extra damage against them and extra damage and all, and it's just really good. You could switch it out for Tagic or whatever you prefer. But I mean, honestly, I feel like Powerful is really the only choice. Tagic maybe, but even then, I feel like if you drop stacks, it just becomes useless. So let's go over skills and the possible variants. So I use Quickening with Fist of Thunder because it just generates the most spirit out of any of the moves that you can get, and it does pretty good damage. I mean, it does like 150, 200 mils, which isn't negligible in T8. Now this is a talent that I really could not. I tried everything else. Like, I tried to kind of optimize the slot, but there really just wasn't anything. And obviously Inner Sanctuary isn't any good. You don't need Breath of Heaven because you're always going to have full spirit. You don't need it, you know. Inner Sanctuary was one of those things that I just wasn't sure. Like, maybe, but it's just not consistent enough. You don't really ever get any value on it, so it's just not worth it. So Sweeping Wind was the one thing that I really felt like you could establish the most value on, and that's because with Inner Storm, once it hits your 3 stacks, you generate 8 spirit per second, which helps, you know, basically maintain your uptime on dash. So I felt, and it doesn't do terrible damage. Like, it actually, like, it does pretty decent damage to whites and okay damage to elites. So it's not negligible by any means, you know. As far as the next choice goes, I went with Fire Ally, just because, you know, more damage basically means quicker riffs. It seemed like the most effective choice. Now, I went with Conviction and Annihilation here for the movement speed. But if you didn't want to go that route, you could go Overawe instead. But this is going to give you the best clear time, and we're literally talking, yeah, a 6% difference here. No. Yeah, 6% difference. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. So next we have Radiance on Dashing Strike. Obviously, Way of the Falling Star is the other way you could go if you want to go Holy. It may end up actually being better that way if you take Fleet-Footed plus Way of the Falling Star. It may end up actually being faster. So I may revise this guide or put an annotation in later. But for right now, this is what I use. Let's see. And then Epiphany Insight. This is basically just for the extra spirit generation. You don't need the survivability because of Gold Rep Boon of the Hoarder. So this basically just makes me just like have absolutely just GG spirit regeneration. Like you can tell, like, you know, like without even hitting anything, which you need to hit something to proc your 6 set with your arraignment. It's just really good. I mean, I can kind of, for instance, show you real quick what my spirit generation is like. I mean, yeah, that's obviously not amazing damage. Let's not get it twisted, but it's not negligible either. So, all right, so now dashes up. Just a quick illustration, specifically of my spirit generation. Look, I mean, like, look how fast that spirit generation is. That is ridiculous. Absolutely just ridiculous. It's really good. I really like it. So like I said, you know, like, I mean, do I even have fire damage? No, I don't have fire damage on any of my gear. So, I mean, like, you could just try Way of the Falling Star and then take Drop Harmony for Fleet-Footed if you want to go like full movement speed, like crazy guru. But I mean, I felt like with the attack speed, it was just giving me enough spirit that I never ran out, and I like the consistency of it. But it's really up to you. Those are really the two choices. Otherwise, guys, I can't really think of anything else that I'm missing off the top of my head. Oh yeah, passives. I just forgot to go over those. Seize the Initiative, obviously for attack speed. If you wanted to switch this to something else, you could go with Determination or a defensive talent, your choice. Momentum is required. It just synergizes so well with the build. Beacon of Utar, also really good, synergizes with the build really well, gives you better uptime on Epiphany and on Way of the Falling Star, or in Dashing Strike. And again, Fleet-Footed could be Harmony. I mean, my resists are pretty shit, but I mean, with the boon of the Hoarder, it doesn't even matter. So I think honestly, you just want to go with Fleet-Footed. That's probably the right choice. And maybe just try Way of the Falling Star and Radiance and just see which one you prefer, you know, or I mean, if you want, you could go Quicksilver. I mean, it doesn't fucking matter what you choose here. It doesn't. Because none of these actually affect the scaling of Dashing Strike's damage itself with the 6 set. So it's really just preferential at that point. So sky's the limit, you know, like customize, find what you like, you know, what works for you. And you don't have to use Fist of Thunder. You could use like, you could use Blazing Fists. I mean, that would be another one for 15% movement speed and attack speed. That's pretty good. Otherwise, you could use Rising Tide Tsunami or Rising Tide Crippling Wave. I mean, those are just like what you choose. I like this one, but I mean, if I had to choose another one aside from Quickening Fist of Thunder, it would be Blazing Fists all day, every day, because it's the only other one that makes sense. But, you know, you're not really going to be sitting there hitting 3 times long enough to stack it, so I think Quickening is just your most consistent choice. Anyway, that concludes this part of the guide. Feel free to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I have been getting some complaints about the volume of the music in my guides, so hopefully this time around it'll be at a more agreeable level. As far as if you don't like the song, then that's too bad, man. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a great day.